I'm very nervous about doing this, removing my seat. I don't know why. This is going to be the diesel heater install.
Hey, I'm Issa and I'm learning to convert this van all by myself while traveling out of it as much as possible.
Rodent deterrents in here, but I use battery power because when I put them in, I couldn't figure out how to tie them into the battery since that's in the seat. I used to have one of these in my Subaru and I tied that one into my battery, but they need batteries replaced every so often. Teeny tiny screw. You can see it does this flashing light and then this ultrasonic sound as well, so it keeps your engine compartment lit up so that it will deter rodents. I don't know how well it works, but there's roof rats out here and chipmunks when camping. When I first got my Sprinter, I just was not at all sure where I could put these in the engine compartment. I have a couple zip ties around this boot that goes through the firewall. So I have two of these. That's one, and the other one I have on the other side of the engine because the engine's compartment's quite big, at least compared to my Subaru. So this is where I put the second one. I zip tied it to this. If anyone thinks that's a wrong spot, holla. I'm going to put a door stop here, and I've already marked where I need it to be. Marked it a little bit early because I might need to put 2 stops depending on how well it works, so I don't have the door hit my flare. And then this is just the tape I had marked earlier with like the maximum that the door can go. So the kit came with everything I need. This is how tiny it is. This is a very tiny popsicle stick, and it actually came on the popsicle stick, which I will use to mix the epoxy. So it's just gonna sit on my little mark here right in front because it's wider than the door track. They say it's a fine Scotch pad, so you can scrub pretty aggressively. And then I'm gonna scrub the back of the stopper. So that's, you see that? That's a side view of it. It's got that little bit is where the roller ball of the sliding door goes. So I'm just scrub the back of this aggressively. I really like this company too. They've had really good experience with their customer service. So then I'm taking the alcohol wipe they provided, making sure not to wipe off my mark, and then wiping off the back. I have JB Weld here, and I'm gonna take just a dollop of each of them until it turns gray. So I want my dollops to match. Then I take my little stick and I mix these together until they're gray. And then I want to take weld enough to coat it. I'm going to scrape off most of it. Oh, this is so tiny. It's actually very challenging. And then I'm going to put it here. I want it on the track. Now I wait 24 hours. Good morning. It is chilly outside. It is 45 degrees right now, which I really like, but my lips are a little bit numb, my nose is a little bit chilled, and my fingertips are as well. The partition will go in, and the heater is going to come out from under the passenger seat, so I wanted to put that in first so I can get the hole for the output aligned with whatever I end up doing for my partition, so it can come out through there as well. That's a whole nother component, learning about fuel lines. I got what's commonly referred to as a Chinese diesel heater. Mine cost about $180. High-end ones I think are about $1,300. I'm paying enough money on a lot of other things, and I was very comfortable saving money on this one. So to take out the seat, there's 4 screws here, and I am using a socket wrench. I'm using a 10mm. Is this called a bit? Oh my. So this is the seat, and to the front, underneath the seat, there is some electrical connections. My understanding is if these get unplugged, it's going to throw a code that's like $150 or so that has to be reset by Mercedes, and I don't want to spend more money than I have to, but it has a fairly long cord coming out from under, and there's a little panel on here, and that's coming from under here. So the goal is to take these 4 bolts out on each corner, 2 in front and 2 in back, and then I'm going to rest the seat back, and I'm really just taking inspiration from other van builders I've seen do the same. I also laid a blanket down so that the seat wouldn't scratch the nice new vinyl floor I put in that I still have to finish trimming up. I'm more nervous about removing my seat than I was about drilling into my van for the windows. Make sure. Oh, okay. Nope, not too heavy, but she's just gonna fall right off. Okay, all right, girl. But the good news, I have plenty of line. Can you see? This is the line I'm talking about. This is just a piece of foam. This is not flat. There is the electrical chase, and it looks busy. Okay, I want to show you a couple things. This is the pump that comes, the fuel pump that comes with the diesel heater, and then this is the fuel line that it comes with. This is a nylon fuel line, and then it comes with this unlabeled part of a fuel line, so drastically different lengths, and there's instructions that come with it, but it's not very specific as to what to do with this. And the best I can understand is this is meant to go from each of the fuel line ports, because this actually will fit these hubs as well as the fuel intake on the diesel heater. This though does not. The inner diameter of this one will complement this. So the best understanding I have is you're supposed to use this for the majority of your fuel line, and this is what's going to be flexible enough. The kicker is you'll have to cut this in little places. So you have to connect these together, hose clamp them, put this to the fuel pump, and then you just run this line for longer parts where you're using this to connect to the fuel pump, your intake line, and your heater. Lucky I have an auxiliary fuel tap for my diesel tank. Neither one of them are gonna fit. So this is just a quick connect that I got for it, and it's probably the wrong size. But based on some other people that I saw on the good old YouTubes, I got this size, and then I have a piece of long fuel hose coming. So I'm not going to use this setup at all. This stamp is a good landmark, as is this grommet and this nut bolt. So we're gonna go under the van. The cool thing about the 4x4 is she's tall, so it's easier to fit under here. This is the grommet. This is that stamp line, the curve. The bolt back there in the corner. So this is how I plan to rest the heater, because the areas that I'm gonna need to drill into the van are going to be in this curve, which we saw underneath. I took all yesterday just kind of getting under the van, back and forth, fitting things out. I'm in a way better mood today. I was really stuffy yesterday. My allergies were just kicking my butt. And today I'm ready to go. I don't think I'll be able to do the full fuel system today because I've had some issues with figuring out this fuel line. I ordered a different one that I thought would work, and after further research, it's not gonna work. So that part though I can do last. So I'm gonna be cutting more holes into the van. I'm going to install the heater and at least run the electrical part. That's my goal for today. This kid, we are working officially with the trainer now, and he is making a lot of really good progress. He looks so unhappy. He hates being on camera. This vest is too big for him, but it used to be on my dog Roman, and my dog Roman was about 75 pounds, so twice as big as him. I'm doing what I saw another person do, where I'm using the gasket that this comes with, and I lifted it up most of the way. It secures down here, and then where I'm putting the heater in the actual bin, I'm placing it so it gives me room for the air intake over here, but then I'll have enough to kind of play a little bit with the output tube there. A diagonal seems to work the best, and I've got it in that little curvature of the thing, so then I'm just pushing down the rest of the way with that gasket with one hand, keeping that on the ground while I lift the heater up. So that is where the gasket lies. These welds here, I've learned, are the beam. So I don't want to cut through there, and this, the way I just put this on, it actually ends up on the lip. So what I like is actually something more like this. And then I'm gonna drill pilot holes, make sure none of them are hitting the beam, which it looks like it shouldn't. I'm gonna put the heater back on and make sure it works in that spot. So I'm just holding this in place, but I just set it back where I'd place the gasket. So I still have enough room for some air intake here, enough that I'll have to play with the coiling of the hose there. So I double checked that this is going to fit underneath the van. So I'm going to mark my holes with my Sharpie that I left under the van and then do pilot drill. This goes to the fuel pump, and I hope it will fit. It's in this part. I have to take out this middle part, or lift it up, and I have to take out the driver's seat. This is another lesson I forgot to mention. My placement of the heater, I would push it that way, just a touch more. Even though I test fit everything, this air intake, it still has plenty of room, but right here, there's a little lip down here, and this plastic hub is just barely touching that, and I wish it wasn't. I decided to fit its wire harness out and under and behind because I thought that was less likely to be hot there. So that's the intake, and now we're gonna take stuff apart. You literally just grabbed a hold of my nipple. Okay, so we have to hold, we're holding this, we're putting pressure this way and bringing out this way. Okay, finished up.
Where did you get the van?
Where did I get the van? From a dealership, babes.
What's a dealership?
It's basically a big Walmart for cars. It's like a grocery store, but only for cars.
I've been to one for trees.
For trees? That's a nursery.
Yeah.
Those are cool. This is the world's most difficult wire chase clamshell to open. Basically some brute force, and you pop some clips out. I've taken my fuel pump connection through the hole through the passenger seat, through this wire chase. Sorry, this is such a tight space and so hard. So what I'm doing is I'm gonna shove this in there. So this is to the driver's seat. I'm under the car. This is the driver's side. And I'm so freaking stoked because I just opened this. I already surprised myself. You see? It's right there. It's right there. So excited. Freaking worked. Oh. Okay, we're just gonna pull her through, make sure that we have enough leeway here. What I've done so far was I was able to loop the fuel line through the electrical chase that goes between the seats down under the driver's seat into the boot to come out so I can have that go to the fuel pump. I just hooked up my output air hose clamps that you screw together. Be wary of where you place your clamps and place them in an area that's easy to put your screwdriver. So this is actually easier for me to work with the screwdriver down there. I went ahead and hooked it up to the air outlet for now. I can always come back and change that when I do my partition. I'm going to trial it with the Jackery first. These are the things I bought to go with the heat system that are not included that I'm using. This is a 5/16 hose, and I bought a couple of clamps to go with that as well, because that is what's going to fit into this. I'll show you a rough setup. A nipple connector that goes to my auxiliary diesel fuel pump, a hose clamp, 5/16 inner diameter fuel hose, another hose clamp, a universal connector that goes into the fuel hose provided by the kit. I don't actually know its inner diameter. I'm going to have two clamps. These both came with the kit. I'm using the zip tie as an indicator that that nylon hose is going to go between these, and then connecting to the kit's fuel hose again with two hose clamps. Then it's going to the fuel filter, and this is actually the way the fuel filter goes. So fuel is coming from the tank this way. You want the fuel filter facing this way, because the fuel, if there is any sediment, you'll be able to see it if it's in the basket this way. If you have it flipped, which actually seems intuitive to flip it the other way so it would collect inside the basket, it's harder for you to see. So that's actually why you have the the fuel filter facing this direction. Yours might be different if you end up upgrading, but this is the one that came with the kit, so that's the way it goes. Then we're going to the fuel hose that came with the system and 2 of those clamps, and then again a pretend indicator of that nylon hose that's going to travel between them. Then again the fuel hose from the kit with 2 clamps moving to the fuel pump. The pump is actually supposed to be, at least per my kit's guidelines, it has to be at a 45-degree angle. So it's going to run up that way, and that's because of there's a piston in here and it can create turbulence, which can create air bubbles. Minor air bubbles in your line is okay, but you don't want air bubbles in your pump because your diesel fuel is going to be your lubricant. At least this is all in my best understanding. I am not a pro. So you want to make sure that air bubbles aren't hanging out where your piston is moving back and forth. You want to keep that lubricated. Here is the port where the power is going to connect to. Then we are moving to, and this pump has a directional arrow, so I know it goes this way. Every pump will have an arrow, should at least. Going again to the fuel hose provided with the kit, another clamp. My hose is a little short here, so this clamp is really close to it. I can't clamp it here because that's where it gets bigger. So the hose clamp doesn't fit over there, and I don't want it right next to it because I'm afraid if it clamps too tight it'll start to wear through. And then the nylon fuel line, which will eventually go into my port that goes into the heater itself at the bottom of the van. So I have 1 more left for that and 2 hose clamps for that. Then I'm going to be using this heat protector over the nylon hose anywhere that it's traveling close to that exhaust area. Even though I'll go over the heat shield so I can avoid any of the heat, I'm still using this, and it says it can go up to 2,500 Fahrenheit. I might try to use this on a couple of the air intake. The exhaust I don't think it'll be good for because the rubber could melt, but I could take the rubber off and just use that. We'll see. But this was the find I was excited about. So vinyl coated, 3/4 wide by a 1/4 inch clamp diameter, and this will fit an M10 bolt, which there's a spot for it on my van that I can loop these together. So the rail pistol was finding one of these steel clamps that the M10 would fit through, and that was this one. It works. So that's going to be what that looks like, and that's going to hold some of the fuel hose. So I was going to finish the fuel line today on the heater, but getting under that van right now with this amount of water on the ground, we're going to save it for another day. I officially have heat. Here's my exhaust. I have to get that little rug out from under there. I have my CO2 detector. We are 0 parts per million right here, which is good. Ooh, that is some heat for sure. Jury rigged up to I got the power source. I spliced it into my external battery because I don't have batteries in the van yet. It's loud. There's a mounting thing I'm gonna have to look into. I don't know why it's so noisy, but that's fixable. It's all working. Cling, cling, cling. I really like the clear coat on that. Ew, it smells like a rubber fart. I'm just cranky, and I'm gonna hit it from the back. See, not using this, using my fingers. Yay! Let Speed Racer pass by. Come up here. Oh, that's my boob.
Why are you taking the seats off?
Because I think I'm just trying to make my life miserable. Are we doing this the right way?
I don't know.
I don't either.